Hey, what's up guys? It's Lucas Casper here again. I did a tutorial not too long ago on like spray painting basics, and it seems like a lot of people got a lot out of it. But there is one thing that I didn't touch too much on in that tutorial, and that is shading with spray paint. You know, if you learn the basics of that, you can implement it into anything from characters to letter forms to even spray paint realism. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, is like a bit of that realistic blending. It's just going to be like a flower shape. You can use anything you like, but I've just chose like a flower because it's you know, the blends in that, you can put that into, you know, a skull, or you can put that into a graffiti character, or you can put it into whatever. To blend or to shade with like a, you know, acrylics or a brush or whatever, it can be a pretty tedious thing. It'll take you a long time, you know, to go from black to white, to really blend that in. It's a lot of work. But with these things, it's immediate. All you gotta do is learn this angling, learn the can control. But the first thing that I will do is I'll show you the kit that I have today. These are the brands that I'm gonna be using. The first one's Flame. These are Flame Blues. So there's two different types of flames. One is low pressure and one is high pressure. These are the lows. I'm going to be working on a smaller scale, so it will help me to have the Flame Blues. As well as that, there's just one other brand, and that's Ironlak. I prefer Flame big time. I absolutely love Flame, but I'm just going to use this to sort of block in a bit of a background, and I'll show you why that's so important in a little bit. Most important are these things just here. The main caps that we're going to be using is this, which are, you know, my favorite caps. I go on about it in basically all of my videos here. You can learn like an in-depth visual on these caps and, you know, why I prefer them in other videos. This cap's great. It's called a cream skinny. And then just to sort of mix it up and to show you different outputs, I'm going to be using a fat cap too. So just a pink dot. This is really fat, which you'll see in a second. Back here, I'm just going to show you some effects and really how this paint can come out with a bit of fading and blending. Then I'm going to take you over here and we're going to paint that proper piece with all the techniques that we do. And we're just going to start with my favorites, the cream skinnies, and we'll mix it up from there. The whole thing with blending is it's all about angling yourself the way in which you want it to blend, right? So like if I want to blend from here out this way, I don't want to be standing on this side. I'm not going to eat the paint like this. It's going to suck. So instead, if I want to go that way with the gradients, I'm just going to, just like this, out that way, right? Same thing, like if you were to do, say, like a circle, or you would have an area like this. You know, you have your circle like that. If you wanted to add some fades into here, you can just be where you want to be, right? Like this. You know, if this was a neck, down here it's a body, it's so quick, this thing, just like this. And you immediately can get that softness, especially when you go from color to color. But I'll show you other little fun things with these cans, and you know, the little tricks you can get out of them. You can even not use your finger, you can just like press it up against the wall. So this is one way to create like a blinging effect. It's sometimes how people do some like graffiti stylings up in their highlights, but you can use this in different ways too, right? So let's say I want to chuck like a bling shape here. I can press up against the wall like that, like this. We'll go down, and we'll go side, right? We got like a little sort of area where it's the shine's coming from. You can add to it by sort of misting out like that, and you have a little sort of blinging effect. Clouds are awesome. Shapes like clouds, doesn't have to be clouds, it can be like smoke or whatever you want. If you use your wrist with your angle, you know, you can get the bottom, just do like a cartoony version here, right? And then you can even get more abstract with it too. You can, you know, you can have your more realistic clouds that don't really have much to them, you know. All about that angling. So when I'm at the bottom, I'm shooting up. When I'm at the top, I'm shooting down. There's other things too, like little tricks that you can do, right? Like a realistic bubble. So if I go right here, chuck this in, go around like this, get the circle, bit of a mist, up the top, you can actually get sort of like little bubble shapes and effects like that. I got two completely different colors here. I got really dark and really white. To do this with a brush would be, you know, very tricky. With a can, it can be much more easy, right? So let's just fill this in. And I want it to fade from black to white. Usually I'd put like a gray in the middle, definitely. But for this, let's just go in straight up with the white and see what we can do. As well as, you know, angling, you have to be close to that wall. My hand is pretty much right up against it. And it's like this. It's like I'm shooting away from the wall, like here. And that's something you're really gonna have to practice over time, is like, almost don't touch the wall, you know, and then work your way in. So just here, if I move up, I can get that fade. It's even good for like hair follicles. You know, if I have some lion or something, I can just go like this, add all this stuff in, mix up the direction, and you can just get that loose, sort of misty vibe. Spray paint's good too, because you don't have to just use the fades, you know, you can add your actual lines in as well, and that'll give you that mixture. If you blend that with different colors too, it's amazing what you can really do with it. But now that we've seen the basics with this, and you know what you can do in the output, let's change over the caps and let's see what the other ones look like. I'm gonna flick straight over to my fat cap. This thing's gonna be big. You watch the dot on this. So that's like that big immediately. The thing you can do with these type of like fat cap is adding in like different patterns and such. So I know a few artists that paint like this. It's a pretty fun way. So if you get creative, it's cool what you can think of, like this, right? If you keep going like this and use different colors along the way, can look pretty sick. Imagine that, like this, you know? You'd even chuck like a bit of a fade between them, make the pink look like it's standing behind. There's a lot of versatility with the fat caps. Another thing that I will use these for most of the time is when I want to create like a really big fade from one color to the next. I've had it where I've had big backgrounds on like, you know, an 8-meter wall. And if you wanted to maybe say create like a sky gradient, you don't want to be using these skinny caps, because it's only going to give you this fade that's like that big. You really want your fades to be much larger when you blend big colors. And that's when these big caps, they come in really well. I'll show you the type of distance that you can get with something like this, right? So instead, the first gradient goes from here to here. You could get your first blend like this, create a solid shape here to blend into. And I don't have any good colors to mix in because I literally just have this pink and whites. From here, you know, you can add your next color down the bottom. And then once you get your blends, you know, it's when you can add your clouds in, your different shapes. So you can do your little abstract clouds. Let's say this background goes way bigger. You know what I mean? You can do anything with it. And probably one of the coolest things with these spray paints too is how quick they dry. Is like this whole thing's dry immediately, even the one that I just painted. The only problem that you're gonna run into when it comes to experimenting is with creating drips. There's like never a good time. If you're doing an S, you don't want to just hold your can and create a drip like this. Reworking over this is hard because that creates more texture on your wall. It's harder to work on. It'll make the next layer of paint like react to that and like create this bubbly wet effect. If you wanted to create drips, paint your shape and make this a drip, you know? Horrible letter here, you can add 3D and all that, but this is just to show you this thing. If I want to fade up, I'm not gonna like hold it up like this. It is really hard. I'll kneel down like this, right? Just like that. That's a few of the basics, the fading, clouds, and all that type of stuff. And now I'm just going to take you over here, and we're actually going to implement this shading technique into a bit of realism. You can take that as far as you want into characters and whatever you want, like I said. But let's just head over there and have a paint. With this flower, you can see the general sketch that's up there right now. There was a technique that I used before this to get the perspective. If you want to learn how to blow up designs like that, just visit one of my other videos. You can find that up here. It's all about scaling your work. The reason why I brought pink is because I'm actually going to paint around my subject with this. It's almost like this is the blank wall that I'm starting with, because I'm going to go over the skull thing in the corner. It is what it is. It's a practice wall. But if I was to do that, go over here with this side of the flower, and I was to make a mistake, there's no painting this section back to like cover it up. You know, we don't have erasers, we just have paint to cover up our mistakes. Before I make any of those mistakes, I'm gonna go around it with the color, because when I do that, I can take all my mistakes back. I can paint it back. You don't have to do this, go around your subject. You may already have a wall that's ready to go, but let's create a little border around this. And at this point, with my hand, I'm sort of a little bit further back from the wall, about this far distance rather than being close. That gives me a little bit of a larger spray with this cap. So here goes the skull. I really love this dude, but he's a thing of the past now. I'm just gonna add like a bit of a pattern to this, and we will jump into that shading. So let's mix it up, let's chuck some dots here and there. For anybody watching who's like more of a graffiti style or whatever, or has that interest, I don't know, maybe this can like draw you guys in a bit more, because it is just like, it's just a pretty flower. So it's not as tough and sort of street aesthetic as sometimes I should make on these videos. Show you how important this is. Let's say I'm doing my painting and I slip, I go straight over that color. Because I haven't done any drips, I can just grab that color back like this and boom, it's all tightened up. With color blending, there's steps to this process. You don't want to add all your blends before you've painted in like your main color. For example, this is one large sort of flower at the top here, one large petal. It's like a lotus flower it's going to be. If I just start fading in from the bottom, I'm going to be using this base color. So, you know, you have to stick with what's underneath it. It's especially not going to work when it comes to this stuff around the corner. If I just start doing this, it's all this stuff's going to shine through in little areas. So you want to block in your areas and fade from there. That'll all make a lot of sense once I start filling this thing in like a bit more solid. I also decided to film on my phone today, which is a bit wacky because usually I look at that for reference. Instead, I got this image, right? It's gonna look like this. From here, you can see all these little spots. This is dark, that's dark. There's always different spaces like this. And it's okay if it's a bit messy at this point. Like, don't be particular to begin with. Just get your colors where you want them to be. So I'm gonna start up like this, right? And I'm gonna get my bases. So this is darker right here. And I'm gonna be fading into that. Same thing up here, the top. And this is when you should really like be going over the top with where the color is. Like the black is only on the top here, but if I go down a bit further, that's fine because I can, you know, I can blend into that with the next color. You don't want to stop it exactly where it is because that next color coming in, you can't like blend into it, you know? So go a little bit overboard just to begin with, right? We're even gonna add some lines here. Might be able to get some texture in this. And let's go a little bit overboard. Same thing up here, and now, look, I'm just gonna try to smash this out quick to get all my bases in for you. I actually didn't paint this section in, but let's add him. We can go around this after. The stem is very dark, and so is the bottom petal down here. And you'll notice when I paint like this, I'll always section things out and then I'll fade them in. So just here I went around the outside and then I painted in like this. So if this bit's black, I don't want to start in the middle, I want to start in the outside, turn it into an area, right? And same thing down here. This whole process will be pretty important to watch too. So hopefully, you know, you can keep your attention span so you can really see from start to finish how this thing works. I'm one to judge because I skip videos all the time and I really suck at learning things. Next thing we're gonna do is I'll do like my darker grays, then I'll do my lighter grays, and then we'll be ready to roll. These are my darker grays. There's some bits that are really full on, like this shadow on this flower is like a really full-on shape in it. So that's gonna be like a shadow casted, right? But once we blend all this stuff in, those bits that are like full on and sort of eye-catching, that's really what makes blending stand out. I'll use that extra that I painted in, right? So this right here is when I can use this, like this, push in. Just like that. And then you have that good starting base, but we will make it look way better in a little bit. To save you guys a bit of time, I'm just gonna fill in all these areas because after this, it is a lot of the same stuff. And then once I'm actually ready to add those, you know, the shading and the technique style stuff, I'll chuck this camera back on and you can see exactly how to do all that. Okay guys, so I got my base. Usually with my base, I like to start like a little bit darker because I do find that fading in my brighter tones over like a dark tone's a bit easier. I'm gonna go from one petal to the next and like complete one as I go. This way it doesn't become all too confusing and you lose where you're at. It's all just much more streamlined this way. Back to my super bulky iPad here, which I'm getting paint on, so I hope you like the video because if it's worth getting paint specs on this thing, then I'll be happy. I got brighter areas down the bottom here. As I'm fading back, I'm using that angle of my wrist. Same thing over here. Same thing up the top. So this bit has a bit of a drop down. And what's cool about this shape is it actually has lines. So you can get that with the paint like this. With this, you can, you know, spend more time and really refine it. But for now, this will do as a starter. And here's a little cheat code for you guys. If you really want to be patient, you can use this. So this isn't a white or a gray or anything. This is actually a transparent paint. So it's diluted down, so it just sort of, it gives you more of a subtle blend. So even if you wanted, say, like a yellow to be brighter, you can add this on top and it'll just sort of lift it up a little bit. But I want more of an immediate response to, you know, be quicker for you guys. So I'm just gonna go straight white. So I got my first petal. That should do. This is why I do one petal at a time too, because, you know, it just makes it less confusing. You don't lose where you're at. And there's gonna be bits where I paint over this, but that's fine because I can just come back and go over the top of that. Up here it fades back. It's also a bit of a blend from the top. If you just follow with me now, you'll really be able to see this thing start to take shape. And remember, these aren't the last lines either. These are just the first blends to get the general shape. And I'll stand over here, you know, moving out of the way, getting that control. And we got some lines here too. So this is a leaf, it actually bends up right like this. I'll blend up here. So spray painting like this really is just like a dance of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. you know, overspray where you want to go and sort of make your way back. It's like the seed in the middle of it. So I'll just layer my colors and then I'll fade it into the background. Just like that. This is probably my favorite part of the flower, which is like the petal that has like a huge shadow. So let's make this exaggerated, right? Just the way the image is. When you stand back, those are usually the bits that make it really unique. You can also just use the mist like this. So this is like the end of the flower is like bent up, darker tone. So this is underneath that, you know. I can mist this stuff on like this, little spray. So we're getting close now. Once again, similar to that that petal underneath with the shadow. It's quite a full-on section. Now would probably be a good time to mention, like somebody left in my comments there, that they want to learn how to do this a bit more. So if you have something in your mind that you want to learn to do with this spray painting, let me know. I'm always keen to share techniques. You can see here we're getting pretty close. I haven't yet sort of refined everything, but I feel like the general vibe of it. To let you know, price-wise, what these things are like is they're usually about like 50 cents a cap. And you'd be surprised how long these can last. Like in a lot of my pieces, especially when I'm painting around like Melbourne laneways, I will literally stick to one cap for the whole piece. This is when that cutback color works. This is when you can sharpen things up. Like this corner just here is like a little sort of blob. But if I go like this, I can really put that point on it, bring it back. So let's blend this in now because this moved out, right? Last little thing that I'll show you too, transparent white. This will show you the way in which this comes out. So very, very subtle. You may not even notice it on the lens. So let's see if you do. See that? It's just there. You know, if you just want to draw that stuff back, make it look like that white's going through, this is when that area is good. And let's just do some here, right? So that little leaf has some texture in it. It's more about layering. Because they dry so quick, you can let this dry and then just use like another layer over the top. That's gotta be it for today. Not the most refined thing in the world, but I wanted to paint something in like, 15 minutes or so, and this is it. Got a bit of realism, got the gradients. Remember, there's a few main things to remember. Buy good paint. Flame's great. Montana 94 is great, but it's expensive. Any Montana product. The caps that you want to get skinny caps. Don't start fat. Once you get to the bigger stuff, go for it, but just start skinny. Then you can practice on a smaller scale like this. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment, do all that good stuff. I really appreciate all the engagement that this channel is like finally starting to kick up, to be able to share all these techniques with you and to teach you the basics on something that is a little hard to learn sometimes. But I'm going to try to make that as easy as I can for you, share my art, share my process, tutorials, videos of painting the murals, all that type of stuff. Just thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.